galaxies spin in a heavenly dance. Oh God, all that you are is so overwhelming. I hear the sound of your voice. All at once it's a gentle and thundering noise. Oh God, all that you are is so overwhelming. I delight myself in you, captivated by your beauty. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. I know the power of your cross, forgiven and free, forever you'll be my God. All that you've done is so overwhelming. I delight myself in you, in the glory of your presence. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. You are beautiful, you are beautiful, oh God, there is no one more beautiful. You are beautiful, God, you are the most beautiful. You are glorious, oh God, there is no one more glorious. You are glorious, God, you are the most glorious. I delight myself in you, in the glory of your presence. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. I'm overwhelmed by you.
We should be overwhelmed, right? Incredible God. We're just sing this next song as a reminder that the God that we call on today is the same God that brought Lazarus back from the dead and split the sea. And we're calling on the most powerful and almighty God. And just this song is just such a cool reminder that inviting him into your life for all your problems. You're like, oh man, like this might just nothing's too big and nothing's too small for God. We serve one incredible God. So I'm calling on the God of Jacob, whose love endures through generations. I know that you will keep your covenant. I'm calling on the God of Moses, the one who opened up the ocean I need you now to do the same thing for me. For me, for me. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. I'm calling on the God of Mary, whose favor rests upon the lowly. I know with you all things are possible. I'm calling on the God of David, who made a shepherd boy courageous. Well, I may not face Goliath, but I've got my own giant. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. On your faithfulness. You hear your children now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You answered prayers back then, and you will answer now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You were providing then. You are providing now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You moved in power then. God move in power now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You are a healer then. You are a healer now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You are the Savior then. You are the Savior now. You are the same God. You are the same God. Oh God, my God, I need you. Oh God, my God, I need you now. How I need you now. Oh rock of ages, I'm standing on your faithfulness. On your faithfulness. It's your faithfulness I'm standing on. You freed the captives then. You're freeing hearts right now. You are the same God. You are the same God. You touch the lepers then. I feel your touch right now. You are the same God. You are the same God. standing in your glory, I'll be glad I chose to say, here I am, Lord, send me. Well done, good and faithful, I live to hear you say, here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, Lord, send me. If I'm known by how I love, let my life reflect how much I love you. I love you. And before you even ask, oh, my answer will be yes, 'cause I love you. I love you. Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, Lord, send me. All right, kids. That was song 3. You're dismissed to the back and make your way over to Kids Town.
God, we just pray for these kiddos this morning, and I just thank you so much that our kids ministry is just blown up to the point that we need to ask for volunteers. What a blessing they are, Lord, and I just pray that you would just be growing them even at this young age, God, to just be your servants and be warriors for you, Lord, in a day that is getting just stranger and stranger. I just pray that you would just strengthen them, God. And that we would guide them in a way that is glorifying to you, be an example to them in a way that is glorifying to you, Lord. Thank you for those kiddos. Amen.
Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't.
I've still got joy in chaos. I've got peace that makes no sense. So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I built my life on Jesus, and he's never let me down. He's faithful in every season. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus, 'cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause I'm standing strong on you. Yeah, I'm gonna make it through. 'Cause my house is built on you. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. 'Cause he's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail. He won't.
You know what's about to come, right? Please rise for the reading of Scripture. I love it. Some of you, man, we're just getting those squats in. Get it going. Okay. Lord, we thank you so much just for this Spirit-breathed, Spirit-inspired word that we get to read this morning. And we thank you, Holy Spirit, that you inspired the author Matthew to write down these very words. And if you inspired them, then, Lord, I ask that you engrave them onto our hearts this morning. That these are not just dry words that we read, but they are living and active, and they take deep root in our heart and in our mind. We ask this in your name, Jesus. Matthew 28, verses 16 through 20. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." You may be seated. Just joking. So our goal as a church is for every quarter to invite a ministry partner to come and cast vision for what the Lord has them doing. And so we have a special guest with us this morning, and he's not so much a guest. He's part of this church family, as you will come to hear. In January, we have tentatively scheduled someone to come speak from the Lighthouse. In the spring, we have tentatively scheduled Welcome Pregnancy Clinic, and also in July in Getty. And here's our heart. Ministry that we are a part of goes far beyond the four walls of this space. What we're a part of is so much bigger than just what happens in this room. And I feel like a lot of churches, they're about the individual lowercase c church, We are about the collective, corporate, worldwide, capital C church. We're about what God is doing all over the world. We're about what God is doing here in Whatcom County. And Laurel Church can't do it all. This is why one of Paul's most dominant metaphors in the New Testament, as he's talking about the church, is the body. That we're all different parts of the same body. And each part is reliant upon another. And so we have a part of the body here today. We have someone that we're in partnership with financially, relationally, spiritually. And we have our dear brother who actually, he calls the Laurel Church his home church. And this church has sent him far beyond Whatcom County. And so, brothers and sisters, will you please welcome Joel McGee to the stage.
Wow, center stage. Woo. I don't know. Do I sit? Do I stand? What do I do?
We're like borderline Pentecostals, so you can do a whole bunch of stuff.
I know.
It's all good.
I know. Wow, so many new faces here. It's really cool. So I want to just start off with just following up a little bit with Joey's sermon last week, where he was talking about pros and cons of technology and the difference. That was really cool. So this week I was thinking about pros and cons. Well, here's a pro and con of Facebook. So with Facebook, we are in the jungle, and we're able to watch the Sunday sermons here. So we get to watch Laurel. Our church service in Nauta starts at 10, gets over at noon, and we're 2 hours ahead, so we get to rush home, and we get to join in with Laurel. So real quick shout out to my wife, Amy and Carmen, who I hope the internet's working well enough to be watching us. Miss you guys, and I'll be home soon. So that's the pro, right? The pro is we get to do the worship, but there's this in-between time between the beginning worship and the end worship. And this is where the con comes in, because we get stuck listening to this guy. No, I'm just kidding. It's all pro. Love you,
far
Joey.
too long, I monologue.
So, I don't know. You want to?
Yeah, it is different when you catch online. You miss out on a bunch of just kind of what's here, even though you're able to connect from across the world, which is so cool. Yeah. Joel, I can't even imagine the feeling that you're feeling right now, because you look out into the faces here, the people here that have gathered here today, and I don't know, 75% of the people here you've probably never met, or you're just now getting to meet in the last couple of weeks that you've been here. Yep. So Laurel Church looks far different than when you were sent from this church over to Peru. So I just think for the bulk of our church, we would be so blessed if you just told us a little bit about yourself. Who's Joel? What's a little bit of your story?
So I need to ask for a little bit of forgiveness, because I have been speaking for almost 2 weeks now, and my voice is not used to that. I'm not used to that. I'm a very introverted person, so I'm wearing down. Now, if Amy was here, my wife, she would be ramping up at this time. And
she's from the South, too, so it'd be a lot of y'alls.
Oh, yeah, there'd be some y'alls thrown in there, probably some tears. But yeah, that's to come in here. We've been gone for two years. I got back like 3 Sundays ago. This is the third Sunday. 3 Sundays ago, I get here, and I walk from the entrance door to the coffee, and I don't recognize anybody. But what was really weird was to actually have people come up that didn't recognize me and introduce me like I'm a new person visiting Laurel. So that was a little awkward, but really cool also, because I'm like, wow, they're really, it's welcoming and all that stuff. And but yeah, I wasn't raised in this church, but my grandma and grandpa lived out on Noon Road, and when I would stay there with them, they would bring me here when I was a kid. And then my wife and I got married in the old sanctuary, so that's kind of cool. I was born and raised in Ferndale. I don't know if any of you guys are Ferndalians here.
Is that how you say it? Ferndalians?
That's how you say it, yeah.
Okay, I never knew.
Yeah, that's how you do it. So I'm a proud Ferndalian too. And we grew up on a little street named Sunshine Drive. Maybe some of you guys know where that's at. So Thornton Road, Sunshine Drive, 2 houses in, that was home. I don't know why I was even saying that. So we were born and raised there. I actually had a fairly good childhood. Mom took us to church. We went to a little church out in Marietta Community Church. And then as I got older, I was just a kid that was always curious in mechanical things. Dad hated it because, I would tear the lawnmower apart and try to figure out how to get it back together, but sometimes wasn't so good at that part. But then I went to the tech school, and I was a heavy equipment mechanic for a lot of years. And I just love the smell of gas and diesel and like that kind of thing. To go into a shop and the older the shop is and the more grease and solvent stuff that's on the floor, that's just woo, yeah, I love that. So how can God use a guy that, grew up in Ferndale and likes grease and stuff like that? And I was raised in this little church, and we would have missionaries sometimes come and speak that we supported. And these guys would always be, they would always have a nice suit on and a tie, and they would talk about saving souls in, way off places and preaching the gospel and things like that. And so I just disconnected. I was like, that's not what I do, that's not who I am. And the other thing you need to know about Joel is, whatever you guys are thinking about me, because we all draw opinions, and sometimes, because I oftentimes sit in the same seats you guys do, people would come up here and you just automatically pull an opinion about someone. So I would love to ask you, and it would help my nerves some, if, whatever opinion you have of me, whatever you set that bar, just drop it 5 notches. And when you go down to 5, go another 2, and we might be getting close. Because I'm a really broken person, and I don't know why God has me here. I don't know why God has me doing what he does, but he does, and I'm just following the leading of God, and it's brought me, to where we are, and God is just so faithful. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Hopefully that wasn't too much.
That's so good. We are fragile clay jars, and on the inside carry the glory and the light of Christ. I love that. So you're just following the leading of God. Tell us how you felt the leading of God, the call of the Lord to become a missionary and to do missions work over in Peru. How did that develop?
So 2008, I think it was. I was probably sitting in maybe next to where Jackie's sitting there, maybe in that third seat, because we were a Baptist church and everybody sits in the same seat. And I was glad to see when I came back after being gone for 2 years. I just kind of came in and whoop, right to that seat. And I was glad to see that I didn't have to kick anybody out of there, because that's my seat. So I was probably sitting right there. I'm sure my grandma, my mom, my dad, my sister, my wife, my daughter, my niece, were probably all sitting in that row. And there was this guy that got up here, and he was a missionary. So I automatically had that idea of missionaries in my head. And he was up here, and I think at that time probably Bob Vance was the associate pastor here at the time, was probably talking to this guy. And this guy was going to do just a short little short little presentation of his ministry that he had down in the jungle. And he showed a little video clip. And in this video clip, this guy was building these boat motors. They call them a pecky, what he was doing. And he showed this video of these guys, and they had this pecky out on this table in the jungle. They had this table with this motor all tore apart, and Tom's, doing something with these guys, showing them about it. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of what I do. That's pretty cool. And he calls himself a missionary? That's kind of weird. But the whole idea of this presentation was Tom was getting ready to, and it was Tom with JungleMaster Ministries, and he was getting ready to they were going to take a trip down to Peru, into the jungle. And so this was before the service, then during the service, this whole thing's rolling through my head of like, wow, that looks so different from anything I'd ever seen before. And the service ends, and I pack stuff up, and I think I had, our daughter was, I think, 3 at the time. And I was walking out, and I walked out that door, stepping outside onto the concrete and the sidewalk out there. And as soon as I touched the step out there, the sidewalk, I just heard this audible voice of God saying, "That's where you're going to go." And I'm like, no, I didn't hear that right. So I get the daughter in the car, and my wife, of course I had to wait for Amy because she's socializing with everybody here. So I'm out in the car waiting for Amy to get there. She finally gets there, and I start going home, and I'm, who knows, it was probably football season. I was mad at her because she probably made me late to get home to watch the game. And so I'm driving down the Hannigan, and I start telling her about this voice that I heard, and she's like, "Turn the car around." I'm like, "No, I want to get home and watch the football game. You crazy?" And she's like, "No, turn the car around." And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "You need to go back and talk to the pastor about this voice you heard in this going on this trip." And I was like, "No, I'll do it tomorrow after work. Like, churches don't work like that around here." She's from the South, so you can, you just show up and do what. I'm like, "Churches don't work like that around here, honey. Like, we need to set up an appointment with the pastor. I need to call him, set up an appointment, and then I'll go talk to him." And she's like, "No, stop the car." So I stopped the car, and she's like, "Turn around and go back." And so I was like, okay, she's pretty adamant. I better go back. So I come back, and Bob Vance is still here, and we start talking to him, and he was going on this trip too, and he's all excited about it, and he's got the list out, and he's putting my name down on the list, and he's telling me about what we're going to go and do and all this stuff, and he says, he spits out this amount, I can't remember what it was, but he spits out this amount that, oh yeah, it's going to be this amount of money, and I was like, aha, I don't have that kind of money. I'm not going to have to go. Go ahead and put me down on that list, but there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford to do that. And I think I said that to him, and he's like, "Oh, no, I'll help you write a support letter." And you send a support letter out to people, and they'll help raise funds for this trip. And I'm like, "Yeah, right. Okay, I'll go along with that." So then I think that week we prepare a letter. I send it out, and I got 2 friends of mine call me that received this letter, and they're like, is this really you? Is this Joel? Because what I left out about my childhood and just the way I was, like, I was American. I didn't want to travel out of the country. I thought America we had it all here. Why would anybody ever want to have to or need to go outside of America? It's perfect. That's what I thought. And so these friends of mine call up, and one of them says, "Well, if you're willing to do this, like, I don't believe you'll do this." He goes, "I'm going to send some money in to help you do it." And I think it took like, a week and a half, 2 weeks. Boom, the money's there, and plus more money than what it was going to cost me. So that went, if you raised over, then it just went to other team members to help them. And again, I'm like, great. Now these people have put money invested in me, and I have to go now because I can't tell them no. And
this is the best calling story I've ever heard. This is awesome.
So we start having these. We're gonna have. I've never done anything like this in my life, right? So then I find out that to do something like this, you have to have team meetings with your team members, right, to prepare you about to go. And I'm like, I don't want this just sounds awful to me. This whole thing just sounds like a terrible idea. And so we have these team meetings. Well, the deal was with this trip was, part of the trip was we were going to drill a freshwater well. The other part was going to be do this pastoral training. Well, I was the only one on the group that was going to do the well drilling. We were going to work with a Peruvian team. Everybody else was doing this training. And they were all super type A personalities. And so we would meet and have these meetings, and these guys were arguing afterwards who's going to pray. And I'm huddled in the corner And so so the time comes to go on this trip. We leave, and I'm still like not wanting to do this thing. I don't want to go. And we go. We end up in we fly. We end up in Iquitos. We have to buy all this food and stuff in Iquitos. And Iquitos, it's just mayhem, right? And I have never seen anything like this in my life. I've never been in a third world country. I've never seen anything like this. And I mean, you have third world country, and then you have Iquitos, which is like it's like literally the wild, wild west, right? And so we're buying all this food to go up, and then we're going to have to take a ferry from Iquitos up to Santa Rita, where we're doing this project. And everybody's talking about this ferry ride, and it's going to be like 28 hours on this ferry. And I'm like, I have in my mind what it would be like here if we were going to get on a ferry to go 28 hours. Not bad, right? Probably some kind of cruise ship thing. Well, we're gathering all this stuff up, and we have to go. Then we go down to the port, and we get on. We're supposed to get on this boat at like 7 in the evening or something like that. We get on this boat, and it's like a fair. I wish I had some pictures, but I don't. I can't even describe it, what it's like. But it's like, so it's a big boat, and there's 3 levels. Yeah, there's usually 3 levels. And depending on how much you pay is what deck you get to stay on, right? And that's how it was explained to me. But really that didn't matter, because once you got on the boat, it was just mayhem, and you could go wherever you wanted. But down in the bottom was the cargo, and there was like pigs and chickens and all these things running around, and like for us to bring chicken up to this place, it's not. I was thinking, we'd go to the grocery store, buy some frozen chickens, put them in the freezer. No, we went and bought live chickens, and took and then somebody has to be responsible to feed the live chickens while you're going up there, and water them, or they're going to die before you get there, right? And so you can imagine what kind of smells and stuff are in the cargo hold of this boat. And we get, of course, that's at 7 o'clock at night, and we actually don't push off until like 11 o'clock because the boat got stuck because they had so much weight in it. The boat got stuck, which is now I know that's just common. That's just how it works. But then I'm hearing this boat stuck, and I'm like, man, we haven't even gotten off and we're stuck. This is not going good. So it was 28 hours up to Santa Rita. And we get to Santa Rita, and it's this little village, and the people from the church come, and they carry all our gear up to where we're staying, to the little base that we had there. The next day, and I got to leave a lot out because I just be here all day talking about this. But the next day, we kind of start this. They start working on this training that they're going to do. I start working with this Peruvian team drilling as well. Well, I speak no Spanish, and I'm trying to work with these guys. They all speak Spanish. They don't speak English, and so we're making it work though. And I think it was like the second day that I was there, I start getting this feeling of I've tried to put words to it, but I don't have really the words to. But it was a feeling of like emptiness coming over me. And so the first day I felt that. The second day I felt even more. The third day I felt totally empty, and I didn't know what it was. But I did know, I was away from my family. I didn't have anybody to talk to about this feeling that I was feeling. And I remember kind of being scared about that feeling. And so that was the third day. I go to bed, and we're sleeping in, just in like mosquito nets on the floor, mosquito tents. And the next day I get up, and it was me and Bob Vance are sleeping in this room. And I know a lot of you don't know Bob Vance, but Bob Vance was a big personality, right? And so Bob, he would chat with me in the mornings, and I remember waking up, and I roll out of my net, unzip it, and I get out, and I look over at Bob, and I'm like, whoa, I see you differently. And I didn't tell him that because I didn't know. I didn't know what to even think of it, right? So I walk out into the little common room, and everybody's out there, and I see people differently. All of a sudden, I see people like more, and I am really bad with words. I can't really even explain, but like And to this day, like every one of you guys, I look at differently. I see differently. I see maybe a person fuller or something. That's about the only way I can explain it. But God gave me new eyes to see people during that time. And so that was kind of my transformation moment. You know, like I had accepted Christ at a youth camp, I think when I was 12. And I said the prayer, and nothing happened to me. And I remember hearing stories, you know, I'd always hear these stories about these great transformation moments, and it never came. And I always wondered, you know, what's wrong with me? Why didn't I get that? Why didn't God give me that? And that's kind of what caused me to walk away from the church for quite a few years when I after high school and that. And but you know, what was I? I think I was 34 at the time. All of a sudden, I get this transformation moment, right? And you were talking, I think the first week I got back, you were talking about God and Jesus and his ministry and how patient he was, right? And he was never in a hurry, and he never, you know, just all that stuff. And I was thinking, wow. And I had never even really thought about it till 3 weeks ago. How, like, patient God was with me. He waited that long to give me what I needed. And knew, you know, that's how intimately he knows every one of us. Like, he knew that that's what it was going to take, right? 30, that's like, what, I don't know, I'm not good at math, so that's a lot of years, right? So that happened, and then once that happened to me, it was like, I can't go back. You know, you can't go back on something like that. And so that's, yeah, okay, that was my calling.
Literally, you wake up. Was that day 4?
That was day 4.
Wake up day 4, and God gave you brand new eyes.
Different eyes, yep.
And you haven't been the same since.
There's still Joel
insane.
in there.
He's still
He's still there, but.
But that's incredible. But that was the hinge point. That's when things changed,
yeah.
and that's when missions
Yeah.
were really pressed on your heart. Since being a part of a ministry in Peru, just tell us a few of the biggest challenges you and your family have had to face.
That's an easy question. So when we first moved down to Nauta in 2008, we were there, I think, only like a month, and we made so many mistakes. But once again, God's so faithful to us. And, you know, my wife and I, we talk all the time, like, if you want to talk about how not to do missions, come talk to me. I'll help you with that. But when we first moved down there, like a month after we end up in Nauta, and like I said, we thought we had this all figured out, right? And we end up in Nauta, and it was just really stupid of us. But we go down there, and we don't even know Spanish when we go down there, right? We're moving to a Spanish-speaking country, and we don't know Spanish. Like, I think back on that, I'm like, man, that was really dumb of you. So we're there. We get there. We move into our house, and we end up having to basically rebuild our house. We get that kind of done. I mean, that's a challenge in itself. We kind of get that. We get it back to where we can live in the house, but because of the way things were, there was only one room in the house. So Carmen and Amy and I slept in this little room for like, I don't know, it was like a year together in there. And you know, that's hard on a marriage right there. But here we are, we're doing that, and then a bar moves in across the street from us, like a disco. They call it a discotheque, and that's like, I guess maybe the closest thing to hell that I could experience, because a discotheque, there is no like zoning laws or anything in Nauta, or there are, but they don't get enforced, and so it's like. I don't know, some of you may, I used to do a lot of clubbing up in Canada, and like the clubs, you know, the music is just boom, 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 you know, and that's all right when you're clubbing, but when you're living that, it gets old after a while. And it was literally like that's how loud it is. I mean, you think of like, it's weird because you think of like a third world country and they're, they don't have anything, but man, they have some music there. And they like their bass. And so like, we would be like literally, they would usually close down at 5 a.m, and then they would start up at 11 to clean up from the night before, and then they would open back up at 11 a.m. And so you'd have like, what is that, 4 or 5 hours, whatever, to rest, and then this thing would start back up again. And it was just day after day after day after day of that, no sleep. You could not sleep. And I never knew what like sleep deprivation does to you, but it can make you crazy. And so after, this goes on and on and on, I start to get kind of crazy. And I start having really bad thoughts of these people in this place. And like, really bad ones like burn that place down and things like that. And, just going to admit, because when you get Joel, you get Joel. There was thoughts of like, I really don't care if there's people in it. Like, take that thing out, God. Like, what are you doing? And I think that went on for like a year. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to start going over there and praying over there. And so, because like I said, I liked clubbing and I liked bars when I was younger. So bars don't scare me. That kind of scene doesn't scare me. So I would go in there and I would sit down at the bar and everybody, now it's a small town, so everybody knows we're the missionaries. We're like the only gringos living there. And like, it's super, super bad for the Christian missionary to be going into the bar, right? You shouldn't be doing that. But I would go in there and I would order a Coke. I would sit up at the bar and I would order a Coke and I would drink a Coke and I would pray. And those first couple of weeks or months that I would do that, I was praying to God, like, burn this place down. And
What did the disciples pray? Like, bring fire from heaven and
yeah, that kind of stuff. I was angry, but as the longer I did that, my prayers started to soften, right? And then I started praying for like people in there. When I would sit there and I would pray for these people, and I started praying, more like, whatever your will is, God, whatever your will is for this bar, I don't know. Whatever your will is for me being in this bar, I don't know, but I'm open to whatever you got for it. Like if this is supposed to be maybe part of my ministry, I'm open to that, whatever. And then so that went on for, I think, about maybe 6 months. And there was this other missionary, Crystal, that lived in Nauta at the time. And she was over at the house. We hung out a lot together. And, this was just a big battle. This bar was just a big battle. So we're talking about that. And Crystal says, have you ever read, oh no, I'm not going to remember the address. Leviticus, somewhere in Leviticus. I can get it for you if you want. Leviticus, and God talks about offering up all your prayers with salt offerings. She goes, have you ever heard of that? And I'm like, no, but that sounds kind of goofy. And so she kind of tells me a little bit about it. And she tells me about some friends of hers that have done similar situations, and they've like done these salt offerings, and God has been faithful through that. And I'm like, well, hey, I'm willing to, if it's salt that they need, I'll throw some salt around over there. So I think it was the next day I told Amy, I'm like, I'm going to do that. And I said, you want to come over with me? She's like, absolutely not. I'll stay and pray for you here. I'm like, okay. So, but then I'm like, so logistically, like, how am I just going to carry in like a bag of salt? And like, logistically, how does this look, right? So I fill my pockets up with salt. And I go in there, and I'm praying, and I have my Coke. I pay for my Coke, and I'm like, okay, God. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, do I just throw salt on the ground, or what? Like, what's this look like? So I do that. I get in my pocket, and I take out some salt, and I'm like, I spray it, and I'm like, I throw it over here. I get this out, and I throw it over here. And I get up, and I run out of there, right? I'm like, I did what you asked. I'm out of here. And so then I think like the next day or maybe 2 days after that, we have to go on a trip up the river to Santa Rita. And we're up there for like a week, and we come back, and there was like this, you know, those plastic lighted signs, you know, on the front of this thing that I'll never forget it. It said Oasis Bar. And so that hung up there, and, you know, because I would sit there and glare out the window at that thing, so that thing's like cemented into my mind now. So we get back, and there's a gate out in front of my house, and I'm opening that gate, and Amy's there, and we got all our stuff. Amy's there, and Carmen and Amy go in, and I look over, and I'm like, wow, look at that. The sign is on the sidewalk. And so I said, Amy, I said, look. I said, what's that all about? Well, about that time, the bar manager who I had met, he comes walking out, and he's got, I'll never forget this either, he's got the disco ball in his hands, in his arms, right? And he puts the disco ball in the back of this motor car, and he picks that sign up and puts that back there, and they leave, and they close the door and they leave. And I'm like, Amy, I think it's over with. And she's like, nah, they're just doing, you know, this or that or the other thing. And I said, no. So what I left out there was this building, the bar owner was renting this building. And through this time, I had found out who the building actually owned to. And I had, earlier on, I had offered the actual building owner, I had offered them double the rent to kick them out. And and she wouldn't do it, though, because they had a lease. The bar owners had a lease on the building. But I still had that money upstairs in my house. And so when I saw that, I ran up there and I grabbed that money and I went running down there to where the bar owner or the building owner lived. And I said, what's going on there? And she was like, well, last night the night before, they had a big party over there. They broke down the back door. They did some damage in the building, and I had to kick them out. And so I threw this money down on there, and I said, I'll take it. And we went down to the notary right then and signed the contract for me to rent it. And I still rent that building. It's now my shop. But you know, just these things that happened, I still struggle with, you know, the authority that we have in Jesus Christ, right? And walking in that authority, because oftentimes I still look at myself as Joel, the guy from Ferndale that grew up, and I'm working on walking in that authority and what that looks like and means. So that's one of the struggles.
So pray with salt in your pockets.
I guess so.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, we have more authority than I think we do.
Exactly.
We're in Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
So I know like that was kind of a physical, struggle in so many different ways. Describe the spiritual opposition that you have faced. Because there's the devil works different in different regions. He's got different demons assigned to different regions. And some of what happens in another place around the globe doesn't necessarily look like that here, though here the enemy works in a lot of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But can you just describe maybe briefly the spiritual battle that you and Amy are a part of?
Yeah, excuse me. So earlier on when we first moved down there, my timelines get kind of confused, but we hadn't been living down there very long. Kind of similar time of this bar incident happening. We do a lot of work up in a little village called Santa Rita, and there's been some struggles up there. But earlier on, we've spent a lot of time up there, and there's a little hotel that when we go up there that we stay in. And nothing like the hotel we might think of here. It's literally just a room with a bed in it. And in Santa Rita, most of the villages, it's all generator power, and they only turn the generators on at 6 in the evening, usually till about 10, and then they shut it off. And when they shut it off in the jungle, I don't know why in the jungle, but especially if it's cloudy, when they turn that generator off, it's like pitch black, like dark, like I've never experienced dark. And so you want to make sure that you're in bed, or that you at least have a flashlight or something with you. So we would always try to make sure we're in bed by 10 before that power would go out. So the power would go out, we'd be in bed, and I would usually go right to sleep because I would be exhausted from the day. And I would sleep for about an hour, and after about an hour, and this went on, this happened like frequently for like the first month. So I would go to bed, wake up about an hour later, and I would be pinned down in the bed. And I would feel a hand on my throat holding me there. And I would try to scream out because my wife would be in the bed next to me. I'd try to scream out to my wife, and there would be this other hand in my mouth. And no matter how hard I tried to scream, I couldn't get a word out. I couldn't get a sound out. And no matter how hard I struggled and fought against this, whatever it was that was pinning me down, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get released. The only way I could get released was to pull my left foot, slide it over, and as soon as I touched the ground, I would be released. And I fought that for, like I said, for close to a month, maybe even longer, because I always thought, like, maybe I had a nightmare, maybe it was just a nightmare or something like that. And also, you know, my childhood, like I said, we went to church, but in my family, we would, you know, there was like, it might sound bad, but there's like wacko Christians, right? And we would always kind of make fun of those wacko Christians that were talking about spirits and demons and stuff like that. I'm a little ashamed to say that, but we did. And my mom sometimes could be what we would consider a wacko Christian. Well, my mom had suffered from extreme bipolar, and the older she got, the worse it got. And every time she would, typically throughout the year, she would end up having to be committed at least one time throughout the year. And she would have these episodes, these manic episodes, and every time she would have one, she could verbally describe these demons and these battles that were going on, and it kind of would freak us out, you know, but we always would play it as, you know, Mom's gone crazy or whatever. I personally never gave any clout to, like, maybe it was a demon attack. So then we're in Santa Rita, and this is going on with me, and I'm like, oh, these terrible nightmares are happening. And finally, like I said, after about a month, I'm like, well, wait a minute, like, Jesus says I have all authority. Like, I can cast these guys out of here if I need to. Maybe I should try that. And so that night, before I went to bed, I prayed, you know, Jesus Christ, in your name, I cast these demons out of here. Leave us alone and leave Santa Rita alone, and, you know, I have the authority. And, man, I went to bed. Best sleep I've ever had in Santa Rita. And it continues. I have really good sleeps in Santa Rita, like really good sleeps, yeah. And that's happened even back in Nauta. That's happened, and you know, because of the things in my childhood, I still am a little. I don't know what it is, but I don't really like talking about it. But we've had times in Nauta that, you know, I woke up with these spirits and demons with Carmen taking our daughter, and now though I think I'm more sensitive, or I hope I'm more sensitive to it, because, you know, when I see that, whether it's crazy or not, I don't care. I wake Amy up, and I'm like, you know, we got to go, and we'll go pray over Carmen and do that, and usually the peace that comes through that, it's you know, why I doubted that, I don't know. You see it all the time, but, you know, then you read in there, and I've read it a million times about, like, you know, when Jesus we'd crucified him, right? He gets resurrected, and then he comes back, and he's walking with his disciples, and he's telling his disciples, you know, all authority's been given to me. And just not too long ago, I was reading that scripture, and it hit me like, and like I said, I've probably read that 100 times. And all of a sudden, it hits me like, wow, if the Holy Spirit is in me, then I have that authority too. Like the authority from the guy that breathed all this into existence. Like, I have that authority in me, and why don't I act like that? Why do I get fearful about this stuff? I have no reason to be fearful of or anything. And so it's just been this journey, right?
That's so good. I think every single one of us needs to be reminded of that reality, of that truth. Hey, it looks like we are kind of winding down at this point of the service, but I just want to ask you, if we were to gather teams throughout the years and send teams, and you would receive support from us, actual, not just playing videos and sending money, but an actual team to come and help you. What would a week or two of helping you look like? If you can just paint that picture for us, kind of cast that vision so we can help envision what ministry and just support would look like for you if over there.
So to answer that question, I got to give, a big part of my philosophy that I've seen and I firmly believe in is that we need to be, the word missionary actually kind of bothers me because I just believe that it's more about discipling people and teaching people about following Christ. And so, the biggest part of my ministry is discipling the people that I'm closest with in Nauta and that I'm working with daily in Nauta, and teaching them about walking with Christ every moment. And those times, it's easy to walk with Christ when you're up on those mountaintops, right? But it's really when you're down in those valleys. How do you apply this Bible that we have and that we read? How do you apply that to those times when life just sucks, right? And how do you walk through that? And but that it's your integrity with Christ that's gonna carry you through those times. The idea for me, or the biggest help for us, because you were down there and it wears on you every day. It wears on you. So the encouragement from just having people from here come down there and hang out with us and just encourage us to keep doing what we're doing. That's how I see a really good fit with teams. And it's not so much about people coming here and going down there and doing something, doing some kind of project. I think the most value in it is the project is to come down and encourage us and help us, because it's really great to have someone come down that you can have an English conversation with. Where I know Spanish now, but it's still not my first language, right? So to just have, that in itself is a big encouragement. Just that.
So it's less of a kind of a white savior. We're going over there. We're rescuing people. We're ministering to the orphans, and it's more of we're supporting the people who are already there. You, the Peruvians. It's less of a, hey, step aside, we got this, and more of a, how can we build you up and encourage you and love you and spur you on in those valley moments of ministry.
And I've seen so many times. Obviously, you guys heard a little bit about my personal journey. Through those trips is when God, it's changing our mentality a little bit of like, oh, God can use those trips to transform me. And it's not all about me going and doing, playing this white savior thing of, because you can throw money at it all day long, and it's not going to fix the heart. It's not going to help the heart issue. And we see that, that's everywhere, right? We see that here. But yeah, I think that's the biggest eye-opener I've had is like, we could throw money at it all day long, and there's still going to be problems.
Yeah, so if we assemble a team and we go, we send them, the biggest change that team may experience is a change within themselves of what the Lord's showing them and challenging them in. Yeah. That's really cool to hear. Church, what we would love to do right now is Joel, do you want to just paint a little bit of a picture of the song that we're about to play and just kind of how that's meaningful for you?
I almost forgot about that. Thanks for reminding me. That's why I got him up here with me. So, what is it? Million Little Miracles. I don't even know how I ran across this song. It ended up on my, I downloaded some song and it came along with it or something. But I don't want to get too much into it. So the tech school, the trade school that we're developing, we're in the early stages of developing it, but so I have an excavator. I bought an excavator to work on it with, and so in this excavator, a lot of times, like that's my happy place, right? Because I can be around people, but I don't have to like interact with people because I'm in this excavator. That's just me. But I also, a lot of times, I'll have my phone in there, playing music while I'm doing this stuff, and man, this song it came on one day, and it was, like I said, it's not like we have radio down there, so the song had come along some kind of download. But I just was listening to it, and it just, I'm like, wow, like, miracles, like, we're all a miracle. It's just a miracle that I'm here. It's a miracle that, like, God's done this in my life. Just the faithfulness that God shows through all that. I'm like, wow, I just think about it, and I'm like I started in the beginning, like, why me, God? It shouldn't be, like, I could think of thousands of other people that would be much better at doing this, but here I am. And so I think that, like, that's a miracle.
Man, I love it. Joel, thank you so much for just sharing.
Thanks for having me.
The challenges, the moments of power and breakthrough, your journey, the calling that God has placed over you and your family. Thank you so much for flying solo all the way back to the States, spending 2+ weeks with your church family. Mm-hmm. He's visited our youth group and other home groups, other connect groups throughout the week. And Joel, just thank you so much for your time
real quick
today
sorry,
as well.
I almost forgot something. I just want to let you guys know, like the support that and encouragement that comes through you guys. We wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't for that. But there's a negative side of that too. So when I'm having really bad days down there, you guys need to know this. I blame you guys a lot of times because I'm like, if you guys wouldn't have gotten behind me and supported me in this, I wouldn't have ever came here. So like, a little bit of that is on you guys. That's just the truth of the matter. But when those really good days, I'm just going to share this. On those really good days, on my high days, I'm like, yeah, I'm really good here. So, but I'm trying to incorporate, like, even on the good days, like, you guys are there too. So, I just felt I needed to share that with you.
Well done. So what we have is we have a little bit of time to sing this song, and then at that point, y'all are dismissed. You guys can go about your day. But here's an option for all of you. Every once in a while, we have a Sunday called Build It Sunday, where we get to kind of together build and deepen what we do, and to gather and rally as a family. And so we're going to have a Build It Sunday time after our gathering today. And we got some treats. We got some popcorn. We try to keep at bay those hangry moments. So we feed you. And we have just a few church updates, a chance for y'all to kind of share what the Lord's been doing in your life. And also more of an opportunity to ask Joel some of the questions you may have for him. And so that is immediately after the gathering of Build It Sunday time. Before we sing this song and before we transition to the rest of your day or a Build It Sunday, if you want to choose to be here, that's great. But before we do these things, Joel, can you just meet me out in the front right here in church? If you want to come and physically rally around Joel, lay a hand, or if you want to extend a hand in prayer as you stay seated, let's just surround our brother and pray for him and empower him just with the prayers of God's people.
carried by grace. Don't ask me how, 'cause I can't explain. It's nothing short of a miracle. I'm here. I've got some blessings that I don't deserve. I've got some scars, but that's how you learn. It's nothing short of a miracle. I'm here. I think it over and it doesn't add up. I know it comes from above. I've got miracles on miracles, a million little miracles. Miracles on miracles, count your miracles. 1, 2, 3, 4, I can't even count them all. You've held me steady so I wouldn't give up. You opened doors that nobody could shut. I hope I never get over what you've done. I wanna live with an open heart. I wanna live like I know who you are. I hope I